Please welcome yourselves to NATE 2017. We've got an awesome turnout, as you can see. We've got over 200 delegates, plus our support staff and sponsors, so it's a really, really good one. As you can see, we're live streaming the plenary room for the entire event. So if you've got colleagues that are at the office and you want to just tell them, the link is, Charlene, where's the link? On the website. Okay, Charlene's emailed it out, but please spread the word in your office so that nobody misses out. I'm not going to go through the housekeeping rules right now because we've got the honor of having the Deputy Vice Chancellor here to open the conference, and I don't want to delay such an important person. So without further ado, may I introduce you to Professor Nglazi. Please come and say a few words for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. I feel honored to be invited into this conference. Program Director, distinguished participants in this important conference, colleagues and friends, good afternoon. Goeiemiddag. Sanbonani. And here in Umlazi we say Eitada. Okay. Now, when Dr. Jagu requested me to give these opening remarks, well, I had to think long and hard because mainly I am a BBT. That is correct. I was born before technology. And I still feel scared when I'm standing in the midst of the IT gurus like yourselves. Nonetheless, I'm excited that MUT has been identified as the host for the 2017 NATE. It's a long name, and you know what it means. I was just, laughed at myself when I saw the advert of this event on your website, which was saying it will be hosted by Mangosuthu University of Technology, which is situated in Umlazi, in the outskirts of Durban. We regard ourselves as being in Durban. Okay. Now, that having been said, I realize that this is a national technology event for IT directors at universities in South Africa. And I'm sure that although our landscape as a sector in higher education varies, we have got uphills, downhills, valleys, and all types of. There are profound similarities and trends threading through your experiences. Now, reflecting on my observations within our university, I decided that I speak briefly on the challenges of great expectations that our community has as far as the function and the role of IT is concerned. In the recent past, I've observed how colleagues from other divisions or departments, they readily cite non-supportive, inefficient, or non-allied IT systems as reasons for poor performance in their respective units. I do suspect that this type of behavior is not unique to our university. Actually, literature confirms that there's great expectations by organizations, by people within organizations, that technologies or even new technologies will enhance operations within an organization, and such enhancement, which can either be re-engineering of business processes or improved business outputs, will result when we inject technologies. Now, for an organization like ours, we know our business processes, and we know the customers that we deal with, and we have set out our outputs in a well-defined manner. Now, since as a university, our main customers are students and staff, our business processes will include the admission processes, for example, the management of student experiences during their lifetime within universities, as well as alumni management. For staff, we're talking about functions like human resource functions, our finance functions, and all the other support services that universities offer. Now, when we look at all what I've mentioned now, these functions existed before the advent of technology, we will agree. And they are still in operation. The expectations on their outputs are still the same. The only difference is we now have technology as an integral part of our operations. How did we carry this out? And how different should we carry them out now that we are in the technology's dispensation? Research states that business processes, whether manual or automated, they require systems to flow through. If you wanted to operate, if you wanted to run any process, you must have systems in place. Whether you want to carry that process manually or in an automated fashion, you need properly defined and well-enshrined systems within your organization. A system will indicate the key fields that need to be filled through a business process. I'm taking an example here of admitting a student. When you admit a student, you need to capture the biographic information of such a student, previous performance in the previous education, the choice of program they want to pursue, financial affordability of that particular student. That is the system that you need to have. The automated business process will receive this information, compare and evaluate it, and maybe produce an outcome based on the predetermined system. We know that universities which have embraced online registration, for example, they will tell a student at the point of admission whether they are admitted or they qualify for the program or not. But it is not the IT system that does that. It is the business system, it is the system within the university. Now, likewise, why I'm saying this? I'm saying this because the thinking and the perception in most instances by the communities is that IT will take over. Once you have IT, all your problems are solved. We have experienced that. Now, I'm saying that likewise in education, scholars are still grappling with the impacts of technology in teaching and learning. There is a general consensus that personal productivity does improve with the use of technology. For example, instead of students writing assignments by hand, they will type them on the computer, right? Instead of referencing at the end of your thesis or dissertation manually, you can use the referencing systems such as EndNote, and that gets done automatically. The use of of calculator in maths and engineering classrooms actually speeds up the calculation process. So what am I saying? Integration of of technology in teaching and learning improves personal productivity or personal what? Efficiency. Agreeably, productivity and efficiency is realized at a personal level, but reflecting on it more, is that all what we want? Do we get what we want out of the integration of technology? There are views which state that there are abilities that get lost with over-reliance on technology. For example, in mathematics, I'm a mathematician by training. So the estimation abilities get lost. You work with students and you say 5 times 3, they reach for a computer because the thinking capabilities are now at rest. These decline with over-reliance on technologies. Also, when people just focus on the numbers and getting the right answers, they might lose the value of the underlying principles in physics or engineering disciplines. And as such, we do not achieve what the basic aim of the teaching and learning is. Why am I mentioning this? I'm just trying to say, as you engage with the discourse in your field, please be aware of the dilemma of the IT field. Over the next days of your event, as you grapple with the ways of elevating the role of your doctorates in this sector, do reflect on the always unintended consequences as well, whether they be in the perceptions by the users or in the unintended outcomes that come out of the processes. The strategic value of IT in relation to business continuity, communication within organizations, and the general operations at large require education, not only on how to use technology, but also on developing skills to re-engineer our systems so that they are computer-aided or technology-based. Because conflict arises when there's a disjuncture between our systems and the technology that we want to infuse in the systems. When such re-engineering is done, the essential aspects of the systems will remain the integral part of our business processes, thus not compromising our outputs. In conclusion, let me wish you the best in your deliberations ahead. I noted that one of the aims of this event is to nurture the community of IT professionals within the public higher education. I'm a teacher as well, so I really understand the value of nurturing developing professionals. This is commendable since, as I mentioned, our landscape within the sector is not uniform. I'm hopeful that we will all benefit from the discussions lying ahead. Have a productive and a joyful event. And lastly, do enjoy being in Umlazi. Thank you.
All right, just a couple of housekeeping rules and just a couple of things to mention. You'll see that you've got a program, something like this, in your packs for the conference. Unfortunately, there was a printing error, and some of you have only got 2 pages, and you should have 3 stapled together. So we'll be printing agendas that you can, if that's the case, you can grab a new agenda for tomorrow, because I think today is correct. It's just the problem starts tomorrow. Okay, so please remember that. You'll also notice that we have these plenary sessions in this room, and then we break away into 3 streams. And you'll notice that there's 5 minutes between speakers. So please, could you move from one venue to the next promptly? We have to start on time, because otherwise it has a knock-on effect of the whole program. So please just adhere to those 5 minutes and move swiftly on. We're also going to be asking you to register every day, which is not the norm, but we're doing this because of the RCCP bursaries. The RCCP bursaries are available, 2 bursaries are available per university for travel and subsistence, but you have to be at the conference for the full 3 days to claim. So that's the reason for that. You can see the collection of green t-shirts at the back there. Those are our support staff. You will see that there'll be people in the venue, people at the reception area, and please do ask them if you need to know anything. They're here to help you to make sure that the conference runs smoothly. You'll also notice that we've got some red t-shirts, and that is the team that helped us put this event together. And I think we must put our hands together to thank them for all their hard work. Okay, thank you also to everybody who submitted a presentation and who will be presenting. We are overwhelmed by your courage and your conviction and your contribution to this conference. We couldn't do it without you. On the last day, we are having a lucky prize draw that only the speakers, the presenters are allowed to enter, as an encouragement for you to present next year. So we'll be asking you to put your name tags in a drawer, and I think, Charlene, we've got a tablet to give away, Samsung tablet. Yeah, so it's a very nice prize. So please, more presentations next year. And then I just want to thank the 3 board members of As Audit who've taken the time to be here at NATE. We really appreciate your busy schedule, taking time out of your busy schedule. And we're very glad that you can join us at this conference. And then lastly, please, phones off. You could hear the interference on the audio visual. Make sure that your phones, the people sitting there, I think that's what's interfering with the sound. So please just keep your phones on silent or preferably off, if you don't mind. Okay, and then just lastly, I just want to let you know that our event this evening is at the Kingsmead Stadium, and we're asking that you make your own way there. Okay. All right. So if I could introduce Jay, unfortunately, I don't know what your title is, so perhaps you can just enlighten us on that. But Jay is from Microsoft and will be delivering our keynote speaker's presentation today, and she'll be talking about student outcomes and blended learning. Over to you, Jay.
Thank you. Just give me 2 minutes while I sort the technology out. Okay, I think we're good to go. Can everybody hear me at the back of the room there? Do I need to use my teacher voice? Professor, I was also a teacher as well. And I'm also a BBT. I didn't get my first computer till I was 37 years old. I think the way technology has taken over our lives to the extent that it has is absolutely incredible when I think back at my life. I work for Microsoft, as Val said. I now work for the Worldwide Education Devices team, supporting countries in Africa with their digital transformation at government and provincial level. And I live in Johannesburg because I married a South African, which is why I ended up here from northern England, Newcastle. Still the best football team in the UK, by the way. So any Man United fans in the room? The door. Okay, so the world is changing, isn't it? If we think back to what it was just a few short years ago, look at that picture there. We've got everybody passively watching, whilst a few people at the sides are controlling the information, in charge of the knowledge, deciding what is happening and where it's going and what is reported. And yet, if we move forward 8 short years, look at what we see. We see technology ubiquitous. It's becoming almost an extension of our bodies. And everybody is sharing the news. Everybody is creating. Everybody's curating content, changing it, moving it around. News travels around the world in a matter of seconds. And this is the kind of change that we're currently coping with around the world. It's a smaller place because of it. We function as a part of a global economy. And of course, that means that it's a global learning space for our young people and students. And they're questioning the relevance of education. And probably rightly so. You know, it appears that so often education is rooted in some kind of past. And I remember somebody saying to me once that we spent the whole of the 20th century perfecting a 19th century model of education. I mean, those days have gone, they need to go. We have to move forwards and embrace the 21st century information age. And we do see signs of change. Things are changing in our schools and our universities. And what is happening is that education is starting to reflect the world of work. I remember when I was at school, collaboration was called cheating. And you were hit for it. And that is why I remember quadratic equations. because they were beaten into me rather than because I really understood them. If you got them wrong, it was a slap across the back of your hand until you learned the formula, which I still know by memory. Solving quadratic equations by the formula. Yes. Thanks to my maths teachers who hit it into me. But education is changing. It's becoming more collaborative, more democratic. We communicate, we share, we do everything together rather than in silos. And you know, that does reflect the world of work, because things are changing. And now when people will go through a work life with 30 or more jobs, rather than many of us who have 1 or 2 jobs in our lives, we know that times are changing. And this slide here kind of reflects a little bit about what is happening in the world of work and how education is perhaps starting to catch up. You know, so education must reflect the blended lifestyles that we all live now. You know, at Microsoft, our products, they're not made by one guy sitting in a room on his own on a computer. They're made by large teams of people working together across the world, getting feedback from a global audience, by people collaborating. They couldn't be made any other way. And technology, I think, ushers in all of these kinds of changes and possibilities for education, for rich context and creativity and skills acquisition, so important in a modern 21st century workplace. But it's also about students having access to learning and content 24/7 in a way that empowers them through self-paced and collaborative social learning. Of course, it's also about face-to-face learning. Nothing can replace the importance of a skilled educator. But this is what blended learning is all about. It's taking the best of the old, the existing, and the future, and bringing them together. Blended learning environments help educators streamline their work so that they can differentiate for a wide variety of students that are in our classes and our lecture halls, and personalize learning appropriately. It's quick access to data, quick access to everything we need, from online assessments, assignments. All of this helps educators to analyze the information and intervene very quickly when a student has veered off course. Blended learning with efficient and robust technologies can truly begin to bring about the best learning experiences, combining rich educator instruction with self-directed learning and collaborative exploration for all of our students. So the key characteristics of blended learning are very clear. First of all, time. It's 24/7. It moves out of the strict, rigid confines of what we define as a classroom. It's differentiated for ability and pace, leading to greater personalization, and it generates really informative data that can be further used to extend the learning journey. And what it's really about is boosting outcomes for our students. At Microsoft, we're working hard to use technology to help educators to make learning more inclusive and more accessible. Windows devices support assistive learning features like digital pen and speech-to-text and text-to-speech. Looking around some of what we do, it's clear that technology moves very fast indeed. And keeping up with that is a challenge for tech companies. But robust technology can truly begin to bring about the best of learning experiences, combining educator instruction with what these young people want in their lives. Here are some examples of some blended learning environments. Now, they can be complex, they can be very simple. What we've got here is an online learning platform, an LMS. We've got quizzes set for learners, discussion forums where they can share information, where their educators can post things that they need to know or that they want them to do. It doesn't have to be complex, but it is still taking learning beyond the way that perhaps many of us learned, which was you sitting there like that and me standing here like this talking at you. It's good that we're being streamed. I guess that's a kind of blended conference as well, isn't it? And if we look at assessment process, let's have a look at an assessment workflow, how that might look. Okay, we've got tasks completed online, online rubrics helping to mark. Marks are converted into scores and grades by formulae and spreadsheets, and then those are delivered remotely to students. That's the kind of progress that we're seeing now. It doesn't mean it replaces what's good. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it gives us extra scope and extra mileage. Our product toolkit underpins a blended learning model right now, and many other technology companies are doing the same kind of work in this space. You know, we've got tools like Office Online that allow for collaboration and creativity. We've got shared storage areas with OneDrive. You can connect and communicate with a global community in Skype. OneNote's your digital ring binder. And let's not forget the power of gamification in schools and higher education. It's a very, very powerful learning environment, and it's one that captivates the imagination of young people the world over. Minecraft is not just a game that kids can play at home, that you have to pull them off their computers because they've spent too long on it. Minecraft is a space that allows students to create almost anything they want to in collaborative worlds. Architects are using Minecraft to design and model buildings. Scientists are designing assistive medical devices using Minecraft. Business is modeling workflow in Minecraft. The possibilities are almost endless for blended reality with games. And so the challenge for tech companies is to build tools that support and underpin this transformation from a face-to-face, one-size-fits-all, stand and deliver model of education that is done to students into a fully democratized, blended model where students own their own learning journeys. But just as importantly, this online environment creates vast amounts of student data. And this can really help institutions to power student personal learning journeys, because data's everywhere. It's all around us. And using data allows us to make informed predictions and analysis of what might happen in their future academic progress. Think about the power of data some more. You know, from a few fossilized bones, we can infer the existence of dinosaurs. From spectral lines, we can infer the existence of nebulae and far-off galaxies that we can't see. From fruit flies, we figure out the mechanisms of heredity. And from brain scans showing reconstructed images of blood flow, we try to say something about the fundamental mechanisms of human cognition, all through using data and evidence to make inferences. So data is fundamentally transforming how our students will learn. And this is the first real step as technology matures and leads to greater insight into student achievement. We can personalize learning based on the data from achievement, we can see challenge, and we can make predictions. This model here illustrates how that might look, where an adaptive learning platform built on Microsoft's Azure cloud generates a personalized learning journey involving the best of face-to-face instruction and technology-mediated resources and learning objects. It's an iterative journey. It feeds either more challenging material or remedial content, and the learning analytics give educators and administrators a real-time snapshot and report into how each and every one of our students might be performing and where we need to intervene to support those students more to achieve more. And just as importantly, skills development is encouraged. The ease of use and confidence gained through using technology, the ability to collaborate, to think critically, to curate and critique knowledge, skills so necessary and important for employability in the 21st century, information age. Indeed, many of these skills that I've just talked about are shown as top skills for the jobs of tomorrow. Communication, detail, problem solving, self-motivation, all of these skills are encouraged by blended learning environments that put the responsibility and the ownership of learning back with the student, where it probably belongs. The skills gap, however, is growing. It's growing fast as universities the world over struggle to keep pace with the demand for these types of skills. And this represents a huge challenge, but also a huge opportunity for institutions and educators to embrace technology-mediated blended learning, which can really help students acquire not only knowledge, but the crucial skills necessary to apply this knowledge to the world of work. And let's never forget the human impact. If you look at this story, this is from one of our interns who we employed at a teacher district development centre not too far away from here in KZN. That young man, and you'll see his story there, supported unemployed youth in his area with a blended digital literacy course. So he helped to facilitate an online digital literacy course and supported those unemployed young people in this part of the world through that course. Uplifting lives, supporting people to learn outside of traditional formal structures. If we look at some of what we can see on the screen there, one of the comments he made there, 99% of the students that completed the course or took the course passed, and many of them have found work, real jobs where they use their technology skills, gained through the mentorship of that young man who helped them. That's a real impact of a blended learning model, taken down to a basic level perhaps, but nevertheless it works. It's real skills transfer. The impact in communities is immeasurable. And that's the important thing that perhaps we should take away from this. Blended learning is ubiquitous. We're many of us already doing it and we don't know about it probably or don't realise it. If we use Facebook or Twitter or any of those platforms, that's our informal learning, but how often do we take that and apply it in our day-to-day work, in academia or in schools? Blended learning is a reality, okay? And it's important, and the effects of blended learning are long-lasting because they really uplift lives. And that's what's important for our people and our country's future. I hope you have a great conference over the next 3 days with some wonderful presentations. I can see that from the agenda. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you again.
Thank you so much for that. Are there any questions? We've got time for one or two if there are. No? Okay, then thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Okay, if I can just ask all the SIG leaders that are in attendance to please come up for the next presentation. Clint, this is, yeah. Sorry, I should have had chairs put down here for you guys, but. Baie goed gepraat, né? Baie goed.
Sy het ons gesê wat my ondersteun. Ek kan net sê daar's mos nou 'n goeie rede vir 'n blended learning set.
There we go. We don't need anything.
So that is a very
Oh, there's Julia. How does this work? Click, 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 click. Backwards, forwards.
Give it to Adele.
Oh, thank you. Julle gaan môre julle hempies dra.
as dit pas sal.
Okay. Okay. Ja, nee, daar is 'n kabel. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye. Okay, if we can settle down, please. Just wait for Glenda to limp across the room. Okay. He has to introduce with Julian. There's Julian. Okay. All right. I think most of you know about special interest groups, but I'm going to just cover it very briefly for those that don't. So for many years, as Audit has had special interest groups, and as we call them SIGs, and these SIGs are a bunch of people that are interested in the same thing. And the SIG leaders, somebody would be chosen to probably the most passionate person about whatever topic is chosen to lead the SIG, and they sometimes meet and they sometimes don't, and it's sometimes effective and then the SIG dies, and so we just decided that this is just too important to leave as an informal grouping. And so these are the SIG leaders. Ati's standing in for 2 SIG leaders. He can split himself in 2. So these are the SIG leaders that are going to introduce their SIGs to you so that you know what's out there, so that you can join a SIG for whatever you are interested in and participate in that manner. But before I hand over to the SIG leaders, I'm going to ask Ati to just explain the importance of these SIGs within our community.
Thank you, Val. Yes, the SIG activities is one of the most important activities that we are involved in. One of our organization, and I'm talking about Assorted You as a community, one of the main goals of our organization is to foster and promote collaboration. Now, you've seen in the previous presentation, the word collaboration has been used many times, and it's a big word. And sometimes we gloss over it and we don't really understand what collaboration means. So basically, just to give you a little lesson in Latin, it comes from co-laborare. So working together. Co means together, and then to labor, in fact, together, to work together. So how can we work together to solve common problems? That's one of the main challenges in our field. Maybe you are lucky sitting here, you're not back at work solving problems, but your colleagues are there solving problems. And I suppose the reason that you are here is because you don't have any problems to solve anymore. That can't be true. So what we try to do with special interest groups is to identify colleagues at other universities and in the higher education sector in South Africa and even wider that we can contact about a particular topic. And to be able to connect to somebody, you have to know that that person has some knowledge or some interest in the same topic as you. So that's why we get people together and say, these are your colleagues that are worried about the same things as you. And you can work together, you can support each other in a way and in a cost-effective way to solve problems easier, quicker, and to become friends eventually. So it can be fun. It should be fun. Working with other people at other institutions and helping each other solving problems. That is what the SIGs are all about. And last year, it was in Kimberley, we took a fresh look at all the special interest groups that we had on the list, which were still important and which ones not. So we basically divided it into 2 groups, dead or alive, and we're going to continue with the SIGs that are still of interest for the whole community. And Val will show you which ones those are. But we would like you to encourage to join any of those SIGs that you feel that you relate to in your work, that you find interesting. So the interest is important. The availability to speak to other people about your work is important. And then when you come to conferences like this, or even in between, you can get together as a team with colleagues and work together on issues that are important for all of us. So working together to solve problems, and the mechanism is a special interest group. That's the basic bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you, Ati, for that. So the group, the list of SIGs looks like that at the moment. We've got SIG leaders for the top 6, or is it 7? But we don't have SIG leaders, anybody leading the SIG for compliance, which is also to do with POPI and that kind of thing, and research IT support. So if there's anybody in the room interested in leading those 2 SIGs, I would love you to come and chat to me, and let's take it further, because it's important that all these areas that we've identified as very important to all of us gets equal attention. The first 2 SIGs, unfortunately the SIG leaders couldn't be here, so there aren't overviews of them, but Ati is standing in for Pity, unfortunately couldn't make it due to health issues. So each of the SIG leaders is now going to introduce their SIG to you. Ati, on behalf of Pity, goes first.
Yeah, slides here. Which button? Forward that one. Okay, I'm going to use some of Pity's slides to explain this portfolio or this topic to you. It's got to do with project management and portfolio management. Now, in today's working environment, many of us have project offices, and the people working in these topics are often connected to a project office where they manage the documentation, all the planning, all the reporting about projects. They're not executing the projects per se, but they do the coordination, the reporting, the management of the project management activities at all the different products in the institution. So we decided last year to combine that with the topic of portfolio management. Now, portfolio management has to do with a collection of projects. When you have 50 or 60 or 70 different projects, it's often difficult to know what's going on. Which projects are not finished yet? At what stage are they? Where does the project budget flow? All of that information that can be collected collectively into a whole portfolio that you manage from your project office. So this is the area we're talking about. And basically this slide summarizes that we want to revive this topic of project management or project portfolio management, PPM. And this is what Pity volunteered to coordinate this special interest group. And he has a long definition, why and how, that you can read on your own. I'm not going to repeat it. And summarizing why these 3, or project and portfolio management, are actually done together. I've already explained that. And he will be asking all of you that have an interest in this specific topic to react and to contact him if you're interested. There will be a meeting, a physical meeting later this year where all the interested people get together, and that you will discuss common problems, common solutions, how to best implement the knowledge about project management, etc., and that he will organize for you. Okay. And any questions? Can I just have a quick show of hands? Which of you have at your university a project office, project management office? Quite a few. So you know what I'm talking about. Okay. And those that haven't raised their hands, you should have one.
Thank you, Ati. Thanks. So thank you. Ati didn't only introduce the project management SIG, he also made the announcement that the agenda's been changed for tomorrow because this SIG was going to have their inaugural meeting tomorrow, or Wednesday, I beg your pardon, and unfortunately that's not going to be the case anymore because of Pitti's illness. Okay, so next up is Buta to introduce us to benchmarking.
Okay, so the benchmark, I believe everyone knows what benchmarking is. This is one of the more difficult SIGs, and I think the main reason for that is that we need the input from IT directors and not your people. I don't know why they do not participate, but one thing I want to ask you, I'm going to show you what kind of information you can get from being a participant in this whole exercise. What I want you to do when you go back, or when you have access to the internet now, write your IT director a message and tell them what they can do and what they can see. It's really very difficult for me. I need each and every IT director to participate in that. Sometimes they delegate this, so that is okay. But we need everyone's input in this, otherwise it doesn't work. At the moment we have different kinds of information. We have, if you can go in there, give you, technical problem. We have different types of information. We have information like what kind of systems do you use, what financial systems do you use, what kind of LMSs do you use. We compare data like budgets, number of staff members, and typical things that you can use to make informed decisions. So I will show you now exactly how it works. It's actually you go to a website, and it's a service we use from Cordit, that is the Australian AS audit. So it is a system actually developed by them. And the moment we have access, we will go into the system. Live demo, yes. I'm old enough not to worry about that anymore. You can just read your email now. But I think it's worth your while just to have a look at this, just to see what kind of information you get from this. There's a guy. What you can do is you can write down the name. There's a guy by the name of now I forgot his name. Herman, but van der Vorst. V-O-R-S-T is his surname. Van der Vorst. He's a Dutchman, and you can look him up on the internet, and especially on YouTube, and have a look at what he's done in the Netherlands. It's actually astonishing what they've done. They've got I think about 62 universities or institutions that take part in their benchmarking. And it's really, it's a cool exercise that they've got there. It's got a YouTube video of about 20 minutes or so that you can really go through and see what they have achieved by actually using benchmarking. Nope.
Yeah, we're just trying to get the login.
Oh, okay. So maybe I have 1 minute to show you. I believe we only had 5 minutes. Val, where are you? There she is. Maybe what we can do is to get the next speaker just a moment or two, and then we can load it afterwards. Okay, let's do that. Who's next?
Okay, next up is Julian. So Julian, if you'd like to talk to us about your enterprise architecture SIG.
All right, enterprise architecture. I think everybody will probably have different perspective views on what this really is. And this SIG, as you were saying, there's the classification between live and dead. I think this one is almost out. Because we've tried to start this particular SIG way back with Fraser and so forth. But I think there was a fundamental issue in terms of what are we talking about, what are we engaging about. Let me just get this going here. So Ati, in the intro, obviously gave the background of why 6, because we have an interest, and I have a passion in terms of basically systems, architectures, and so forth. So I think also to give some pedigree and to get, because this is a sales pitch, I want to attract as many of you to the SIG tomorrow to make it worthwhile and to make sense to all of us. So my background, just in IT very quickly, I can take a long time, but I've worked in the public sector, I've worked in the insurance space, but in the higher education space, I've been busy 22 years. And that goes from student systems, finance systems, dabbling in research, looking at assess admin space, so database, not networking as such, but identity management and so forth. So there's a myriad of areas that I've worked in, and I feel passionate about these things. And it's time now that we share this passion amongst universities. So take this message back. I'm going to give a 3-minute synopsis of enterprise architecture that hopefully everybody can understand, if that's possible. Because this is to trigger who should be part of this particular SIG. So please share it back at the university, at your institutions, to people that you think might have an interest to reach out to us so that we can establish this. Now, what is enterprise architecture? One sentence. People collaboration for a purpose supported by a platform. That's it. So people forms a company, forms a division, is part of a project group. So it's a grouping of people that is enterprising, all right? But they are engaging, or the enterprise exists for a purpose. So what is that objective? What is the reason that they're engaging? And then supported by a platform, which basically in architecture perspective is business, data, applications, and technical perspective. And that supports it. That's the one line of architecture. So how do we do architecture? It's even more simpler. We're taking stock of the existing landscape, all-inclusive. Whatever topic you engage on, it's an all-inclusive focus on what it is. Then you get a view of the current state. And then you say, what is the desired state or the alternate state where you want to be in? And then you mobilize processes of getting from A to B. Sounds very simple, doesn't it? But try and do it. It becomes a huge challenge because of the different perspectives people hold on these different spaces. But I'm trying to simplify it. So some of the things that makes architecture or enterprise architecture different from, let's say, a project management focus, because projects implements a solution. Architecture says we would like to have a holistic view, the big picture thinking of establishing capabilities. And that is guided by some principles. And these principles are not what I think out or you have to think out. It's actually on the web. The Open Group has done a lot of work around this. So there would be principles that would say, what's the general principle? I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can go there. But a general principle would be, say, to maximize the benefit for the university, in our case, the enterprise, whatever we've defined it as. Business principle could be, compliance is designed in. A data principle, how is it shared? How accessible is it? Application principle could be service orientation, common use applications rather than multiple applications. So this is just snippets of it, the detail you can find, and we can engage in tomorrow in the SIG in terms of unpacking these things. And then questions could also be asked, do we need architects? And the answer is probably no. But if you say no, then you're allowing yourself to do the ad hoc architecture, and you lose control. So why we would do architecture is to prevent chaos, to create reliability and robustness in what you're doing, to be flexible, cost-effective, and get the IT change under control. So when you change IT, when you change architecture with IT, it's controlled, it's considered. And then I think the welcome also indicated to the distinct separation between the business architecture and the technology. It's not technology first. Technology underpins the business requirements. So now with the AS audit, or this enterprise architecture SIG, I think I'm going to go back to that first line that says, so would I say people, collaboration for a purpose, supported by a platform. That statement stands. So bringing it back to this, the enterprise are you or us. So we need to decide, what do we call this enterprise? What are we going to engage about? And then once we understand that, what is the purpose? And the purpose will lead us to either engage into in domains of business, data, application, and technology. So that will support it. So if I take, Sakir's not here now, but there's the UniCloud concept. I've just taken that further and said, look, let's, from an AS audit perspective, let's create something that says UniShare. And that's about integration, sharing student data between universities. And if you look at the things coming like CAS, the Central Application Service, and NSFAS, what is missing, what makes it complex there is we don't have a unified, singly defined object of a student to say, if I talk to another colleague at another university and I say student enrollment, we are talking the same language as an option, all right? So that's the sort of thinking. Then we can go into identity of sapphires there and so forth, but there's also other services that we can talk about. All right, so you can see before I get into the whole discussion and debate of enterprise architecture, hopefully there is some sort of sense of how you guys can engage. We are the enterprise. We have to make it work. And hopefully I have some representations tomorrow at the SIG to engage on this. And what I'm saying there is not maybe a singular group. It could be multiple groups, which could lead to a follow-up session where we actually have streams around enterprise architecture. But where I must have a common understanding of where you want to push the group or the enterprise, as we call it, and that's up to you guys. So look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the SIG.
Thanks, Julian. Clint is just going to set up the laptop so that Boeta can show us the benchmarking system. I just want to mention that the SIG leaders are going to be wearing their black T-shirts with their names and their SIG names on their pocket tomorrow. So you can easily identify them and go and speak to them, and so that they stick out and you know who they are. Okay, Boeta?
I remember the guy's name. His name is Rens. R-E-N-S van der Forst. Look at his YouTube video that he actually made for AS Audit a while ago. He's a very interesting guy. He talked about chickens that they keep in very small spaces in the Netherlands, and he wants to develop virtual reality for chickens. So he's got a photograph of a chicken with glasses on, the virtual reality, so they think they're in a big space. It's really very interesting. It's not a joke. Like I said, there is the website. So it's got 4 or 5 different tabs on top: profile data, benchmarking data, calculator data, and published data. So the profile type of data, let me just have a quick look there. If I can find this thing. Where is it? If you can just click on profile data. Maybe there it is. No, left. No. This left. This left. Okay, then we have to go down. Sorry. If you can just go down, just help me with this. So there's the different systems that universities actually, well, you've got more than this, but this is the main core systems that a university usually use. What you will see is things like the financial management system, human resource management system, learning management system, which is quite interesting. Maybe you should just click on, let's click on one of them. Can you click on the learning management system there? That one, yes. Just to give an idea what kind of information you can get from this. What you will see is that most universities use Blackboard. I think the second one is Moodle, and the third one is Sakai. Blackboard is quite a lot of universities actually use Blackboard. I think there's still one WebCT there. Now it's gone. Oh, okay. So as I op pad. Dink hy nog. Okay, so there you can see this is one type of information you can get from that. This is the profile data. So what you will see here is, if you can just remove that bell. Okay. So you'll see lots of universities using Blackboard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 universities using Blackboard. A few universities Moodle and a few Sakai. You can see who uses actually what kind of system. And what can you do with that? I mean, if you have questions about Blackboard, you can see who is using it and you can talk to the people. So that is one thing that is important. Hopefully we can do the next tab. If you can just close this tab on the right there. On that right. Or just go back. And I'm just going to show you one more. This is taking a little bit longer than we used to. If you go up. And then go to calculator data. And there you can see things like IT expenditure as a percentage of total revenue. You can see, maybe you can't read there, but IT expenditure per student. So you can really make informed decisions if you know how do universities actually spend, or if you know the IT expenditure of a university is typically 5% or 6% of the total revenue, and at your university it's only 1%, then you know there's a problem. And then you can take this to your management. I mean, it can help you to make informed decisions and to motivate new money. So I'm not going to click there. It's just going to take too much time. So if you click there, then you have a summary of all the universities that actually participated in this. I don't think you'll get any information because the 2015 data is not really there. So I really want you to talk to your IT directors. This is very useful information. And get them excited about this and ask them to participate. Please do that. So what you will see is there's only one university that actually that loaded their data for 2015. 2012, there's quite a lot of data still. 2012, 2013. Okay, I think that is it. Thank you very much.
Yes, as Boeta says, your senior IT director or CIO has got access to the system. It's obviously got sensitive data, and the directors have to sign a acceptable use policy so that they don't share each other's data inappropriately. So we take it very seriously. Just want to get to the next slide. Okay, Ati, you're up next for cybersecurity for Saki.
I'm not going to use any slides. Well, okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm not going to use any slides. Saki has just asked me to raise your attention to another special interest group, cybersecurity. Now, in today's world, I think everybody knows about the risks associated with cybersecurity and the rising trend of attacks, especially at universities, security attacks. People want to steal information or break our systems or cause havoc. So we are on a daily basis exposed to more and more cyber attacks. And we have to counter that with effective measures, effective practices and security systems. And for that purpose, we think there's a desperate necessity for a collaborative interest group to look after this for us and to share experiences, share solutions, share our thinking about how to approach this problem. So Saki will convene this SIG. There's also in July the 17th to the 19th, there's a special conference at Cape Town University for people interested in cybersecurity and solutions around it to gain more knowledge about the problem. And then the day afterwards, on the 20th of July, we will get all the senior IT directors together to establish a cybersecurity event response approach or a team. So that we can actually support each other in preventing the spread and the damage that future attacks will cause for us. So that is basically the immediate activities lying ahead of us. And Saki will convene and he will send out messages and invite anybody to participate in the SIGs, like in any other SIG. Thank you.
Thank you, Ati. And last but not least, Adele.
Hi, everyone. When I started with the blended learning SIG, or thinking about that, I thought I had to motivate it. But the keynote this morning really did that for us. I think it's really obvious that a blended learning SIG is something that will be worthwhile for a lot of us. If we think about what comes our way from the academia and other academic support services, it's things like we want more from our LMSs, we want learner analytics, we want learning analytics, we want lecture capturing, we want concept capturing, and the list goes on and on and on. And technology makes all of that very possible for us. But I think that puts a lot of pressure on IT, and I think it's also something that IT cannot solve on its own. So I think with this SIG, we'll have to include some people from other academic support services, as well as academia even, lecturers that are champions in the area of blending their learning environments. So our plans, I actually had a few slides up there, and we actually started working on terms of reference. But we'll organize an inaugural meeting. Okay, now I'll have to go a bit backwards, but there's not many things. Even EDUCAUSE says that blended learning is really one of the issues for 2017. Not going anywhere. Shift. Okay, there are the things that I'm sure comes to everybody, not just to us, but we've experienced it this year and every year more and more and more. The terms of reference that we started drawing up quite a few years ago with NMMU looks something like that, and that's something we'll have to revisit and see if we can change that for the SIG starting up now. I'll organize an inaugural meeting at some stage in the next few months, but I want all of you to please take part where you can, and please spread the message to the people, to your colleagues, and also to the champions on your campuses that could help us take this forward. Thank you.
Right, has anybody got any questions for any of the SIG leaders or for me at this stage? Who thinks that they're going to join a SIG? Show of hands. Oh, come on, guys. There we go. That's a bit better. That's a bit better. Okay. And please don't forget that it's I've gone completely blank. Sorry about that. I really don't know what I wanted to say. The one other thing that I want to mention to you, it's not a SIG, but we've got a committee. Now, the difference between a SIG and a committee is that a SIG has a lifespan. So when we're no longer interested in cybersecurity, as if that's ever going to happen, we will scrap that SIG. So SIGs come and go, and we close them when it's no longer appropriate. But committees last forever because they are part of our core focus for as audit. So we've got two committees. The one's a procurement committee. The other one is a skills development committee. And we've got very poor representation on the skills development committee, which we'd like to change. So we meet regularly once a quarter, virtually 3 times a year, and then at NATE we meet in person. And we discuss skills development and what we can do together to bring down costs and to help each other upskill our staff. So if you're interested in joining that skills development committee, please let me know. You're more than welcome. We'd really like to have representation from all the universities. Okay, we are running early, but seeing as we're in a plenary and we are about to break for tea, I'm going to call on our next presenter, which is Kipu, who is Dirk. Dirk, I've never met you, I don't think. Dirk, Kipu has been wonderful supporters of As Audit. They are platinum sponsor at this conference, and I think they've been platinum sponsor at almost every night. So thank you very much for your ongoing support. We really appreciate it. And Dirk, over to you to introduce yourself then. Okay, you're going to mic him up. What do you prefer? Okay. This one.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just give me a moment to buckle up here. Eh? Where's the, this one? Okay. Good. Ready? All ready for a break? Thank you. Well, as I said, good afternoon. Well, it's the first time for me to be here in Durban and to present to you about what Kipu and Greenbound are doing together. Thank you for that opportunity, and thank you to Wayne and Gareth to invite me to do so. The blame is all on you. Gentlemen and ladies, first to introduce myself. My name is Dirk Schrader, and as you can hear from my accent, I'm a German. My apologies. I'm a certified information system security professional and also a certified information security manager. Should tell you that I'm really able to talk about what I'm talking about. Kipu and Greenbound are here to provide the services and the technology for vulnerability management. And the topic of my session is, why is this important? Well, quite simple. It helps you, it gives you a stronger handle against billions of malware, often undetected by other tools. That would be the area of non-targeted attacks. It provides the same view on your network as the adversary has, reducing the attack surface before something happens. That would be a targeted attack. And then the last two things are focusing on resilience, so to strengthen your network, to withstand an attack, to come back as quickly as possible, and to maximize the effectiveness and the efficiency of IT security teams. The whole session is around these four aspects. If you have any questions, just raise your hands. I will try to answer them or delay them to further notice. So, speaking about malware and vulnerabilities, so probably you have all seen something like this where you're getting an email, at this point, someone pretending to be my copy machine, with an attachment to it. So the first question which came to my mind when I got this email at my home office, why do I get this? What's my firewall doing? It should detect this as an infectious thing, as a malware. Well, I was trying to figure out what was going on, and probably I have done the same thing like you have done in your careers and in your daily life. I was asking VirusTotal. Yeah, and there starts the problem. VirusTotal was giving me a response saying, yeah, well, I just found one in 54 systems, antivirus systems being used by VirusTotal to say, this is infectious. This is malware. And that happens again and again. It's not about those things to be bad or not developed well enough or stuff like that. It's just a question of being overloaded. Because if you look at the recent years about net new malware variants, let's start with 2014. 317 million net new variants. Really net new, not adding up to the existing ones, just new ones. 2015, 431 million. 2016, just a little slowdown. Just a little. Maybe they took a break or something like that. Oh, we're coming back to that break thing, isn't it? And 2017, year to date, they're picking up again. So if you count these numbers together, we have about 1.5 billion variants of malware around that. And it's quite easy for them to do so because there are a couple of exploit kits out there which help you to do that. They are click and point things. You can download them. Every sort of script kiddie can do that. You can use them. You can change settings. You can even get statistics about how effective your own developed malware is. And then what happens is those things on the next generation firewalls, on the ADS antivirus systems, they're simply overloaded. And think of it in a sort of a balance thing, all around the IT security fulcrum. So left-hand side, the malware, the big block. Right-hand side, your firewall, just to make it easy. Growing, capabilities expanded. Growing, capabilities expanded. That's a game of a leapfrog. Every year. Going on, going on. So what I'm talking about was that extending that handle, giving you a different lever to work with malware. Because what they are trying to do is they are trying to exploit something vulnerable in your infrastructure. They're looking for vulnerabilities. And as I mentioned, we're talking about, in a year, 400 million net new variants. Over the last 4 years, 1.5 billion. Guess how many vulnerabilities they have targeted? Anyone daring to guess? 800. So, what's easier? To play that leapfrog game and try to be up and par with every new variant of malware, or just focus a little bit more on these 800 vulnerabilities? I think the answer is clear. So that was about non-targeted widespread attacks. That's all about things like we have just seen. And by the way, that's a good example. WannaCry. We have had a customer in the UK, Anglia Ruskin University. They bought the Greenbaum technology together with the Kipper services just a week before WannaCry outbreak happened. They installed the system, they were checking their infrastructure, they found these vulnerabilities, patched it, and they were happy not to be affected. What you can see here is also a sort of a timeline. The two lower ones have been developed by us as tests in early as February, as the first information came out about WannaCry and how it might work. That's the SMB version 1 vulnerability check there. So when we speak about vulnerability management in the context of a security architecture, prediction, prevention, detection, response, as one example, we are very much on the prediction side, giving you early heads up about what's going to happen. When we speak about IT security incidents, there are a couple of things to distinct. Number one, as I've mentioned, it is that widespread malware attack, which is not really targeted on a specific infrastructure. It's something about, yeah, someone saying, I'd like to try it. Someone saying, I have a financial interest, or some of that. A targeted attack, sometimes called APT, sometimes called something different, is about someone who's interested in taking over your infrastructure. And that's about a different perspective, which is also provided during vulnerability management. Vulnerability management is about showing you the attacker's perspective on your infrastructure. Some of you might be familiar with that onion layer model here called defense in depth, where we're talking about a surrounding aspect of processes, policies, awareness situation, physical security, perimeter security, network-based things, host and operating systems, application, and data. If you're thinking about existing tools, authentication, firewall, network-based intrusion detection or prevention systems, host-based things, AV systems, what they share is that inside-out view. They are threat-oriented. They are looking for things to happen, to come upon them, to detect, and maybe to respond. If you're thinking of it in terms of an attacker's view, it's the opposite view. It's the outside-in view. What do I see? What's on the perimeter side? What kind of network is there? What kind of protection from the network side is there? And that's a complete change in the perspective, which is vulnerability management. If we think like an attacker, the next question is, what is needed for an attack to be successful? And there are basically three elements. Number one, the capability of the attacker to carry out the thing. I mean, we're talking about things like resources, money, time, the effort spent to carry out the attack. If he doesn't have a computer, no chance to do an attack. If he doesn't have the time, no chance. If he doesn't have the money, no chance. The difficulty for that element is we can't do much about it. There is no influence on our side on the capabilities of an attacker. The second element is the reachability of the target via logical or physical means, the usual phishing thing, which is also a service offered by Kipu, dropping a USB stick in front of the door. You won't believe how often it works. Being reachable via your website, via your email server, via access points, these are all doors for them. Sometimes open doors. And the last thing is the vulnerability. Something that can be exploited. And that's even in itself a very broad definition. Because when you think of vulnerabilities, the first thing which comes to your mind is Adobe Flash, Microsoft Office, something like that. Am I right? Probably yes. Okay. Yeah, you're right. There are software flaws. But there's more to that. There are default configs or faulty configuration things. There are unauthorized or unsuspected installations, systems, software, services. Who's aware about how many Java runtime editions he has on his machines? Count it. You wouldn't be surprised. And compliance deviations, non-compliance, policy deviations or breaches. Let me speak a bit more about the last 2 points, because they are not so obvious as potential vulnerabilities. You're all here because you're somehow linked to IT security, but you're also linked to an infrastructure which is updated, maintained. You're sometimes suffering, sometimes taking advantage of operating system upgrades. Sorry guys from Microsoft. Speaking about Windows 10. So it's a very big leap for Microsoft and a very big leap for everybody else as well to get acquainted to it. Microsoft was keen to get it out. On the same aspect is that if you're in an IT infrastructure and you're responsible for it, to manage it, to support it, you need to know about this stuff. So people starting to use Microsoft Windows 10, and there is no one in the infrastructure in your organization being able to support it. Probably your adversaries are a little bit faster. They know about Windows 10. They have the time to look into the vulnerabilities of Windows 10, which you don't have. So the criticality of rolling out a new operating system or rolling out a new software solution and the vulnerability behind is being able to maintain it from a security perspective, to know what others can do with it. And that's the one thing about policy deviations, policy breaches, simply to say, as an example, I don't want to see Windows XP anymore. Hopefully everybody nods his head, yes. And I don't want to see Windows 10 so far because I can't support it. If I can't support it, it's vulnerable. Keep that in mind because I will come back to that later. Oh, here we go. As an example, you see scan configs here from the system itself, where we have, for example, a scanning configuration for how to set up Windows 10 in a way that it's transmitting least possible amount of data in the telemetry. It's a big issue in Germany about data privacy. So vulnerability management has this initially two aspects. Number one, helping you to counter, be prepared for, predict and prevent widespread malware attacks. And the second aspect, which we've covered, was about helping to detect and respond to targeted attacks. If we're talking about things like increasing resilience, decreasing the attack surface, maximizing efficiency and effectiveness, then we're talking about something which is we call a vulnerability management process. And how this process can help in increasing resilience, minimizing the attack surface. By the way, I'm still in time? Okay. So going through these steps is something like prepare. Define your IT security goals. What you would like to see, what you would like not to see, and map those things to technical controls. Sounds more complex than it actually is, because it's a simple definition. Like I mentioned, I don't want to see Windows XP anymore, I don't want to see Windows 10 now. Maybe in the next cycle that changes. You want to identify, classify, prioritize in terms of to get to the bottom of what matters most, what has the greatest impact. The greatest impact in terms of if it would be exploited, and what has the greatest impact in terms of if I'm doing this first, how much do I do for increasing my resiliency and decreasing my attack surface? And then assign, mitigate, and remediate so that the right person can do the thing, can do the necessary work with all information at hand. Part of the solution is that if there is a software flaw discovered, we provide the information of how to remediate or mitigate against. And finally, store, repeat, and improve to automate, schedule things, compare to comparison in order to document security progress, which might be of interest for your superiors, and update or enhance defined security goals, which is, again, for example, that Windows 10 thing, saying, now I'm able to support Windows 10, but only in given configurations. That would look something like this. So, going through these things, identify, classify, prioritize, assign. What you see is a list of results. That's a finished scan, sorted in the first place to help you to identify. I'm not sure whether it's readable. It says up here, so severity should be high and vulnerability should be filtered down to anything related to Windows. And that's the first aspect of working with it in an efficient way. So you probably have the same thing like we have in Greenbone in our team. There are some guys who are more familiar with Windows and some guys who are more familiar with Linux. So if you send out jobs related to Windows to a Linux guy, he will either be bored or make something wrong worth. The other way around. Probably, yeah, okay, get it. And that's about getting things done in a quicker way. Filtering things, sorting things. Make sure that the right people know the right stuff. Sorry for that gray circle, because that's actually live data from a customer. As you can see here, we have also the capabilities to sort by host, which helps you to identify, oh, damn thing, I should go for these 3 hosts in the first place. Reducing your attack surface. If you sort the whole thing by vulnerabilities, so that someone can get to the bottom of a specific vulnerability, in this case, for example, that mail relaying thorough test thing, well, opening up your own mail service for relay, public relay is anyway a tricky thing, but that's, again, helping you to get to what has the best, most impact. On the other hand, you can also work with assets from an asset point of view, saying, which ones are my critical assets? There's an asset management in the system that allows you to tag assets freely. What I'm usually suggesting is to use location, network location, so physical location, network location, criticality, people responsible for it, things like department would also be an option. So that you can use these tags to sort things, like it's up here saying, I want to have things out, filtered out by criticality of Phi and the IP location of net zone 1. So that there is someone in a campus situation responsible for that net area, net zone area, getting the information. All these things, asset management, schedules, filters, sorting capabilities, are part of a vulnerability management solution and not just scanning. Because you will probably hear some of our competitors speaking about, yeah, we just use this stuff and you're fine, and then you can do the whole thing manually. Manually doesn't help. Vulnerabilities are ever increasing. I'll get to the numbers of that later on. There we go. Another example of vulnerability management is the ability to work with different users, with different groups, with different roles. So think of things like someone has developed a specific filter, a specific own workflow, and he wants to share that, wants to give the rights to others to use that. It's possible within the system. Just vulnerability scanning tools can't do that. I was talking about, vulnerability management as part of a security architecture. And quick recap before we get into the final stage. Prediction, prevention. Actually, what happens is, if you're talking about having an incident, that's the red X here, between prevent an incident and detect an incident. So you can also see that as a timeline of prediction is the very early stage, prevention is close to an incident being possible to happen, detection is right after the incident, and respond is to clean up things. With vulnerability management, we're definitely up in the upper part. We can support in the lower part to an extent, but it's all about being prepared. Know the risks, know what is up and running in your infrastructure, know the vulnerabilities, manage them to increase the resilience and to decrease the attack surface. I think that's a double. That can be done by using alerts and filters, as an example. Because that supports that management, that workflow aspect. Having alerts being sent out to the right people, having filters helping for these alerts and stuff like that. So, before we can get to the question and answer session, a final thing. We've done a little test. We were keen to find out how long does it take to do vulnerability management manually versus with support of a tool with automation like Greenbone. And we were thinking, okay, let's talk about 500 assets and let's try to identify what's going on these assets. So a plain enumeration. What kind of asset, what's the operating system, what's the version of the operating system, what applications are installed, you know it. It took about 41 hours to do that. With the tool itself, using secure content automation protocols, it took about 4 hours. Then we wanted to classify what we have found, because then we were comparing applications installed with vulnerabilities from our own sources, something like that. The classification took another 4 or 5 hours. With the automation, 20 minutes. And so on. And so for a single run of vulnerability management in a 500 asset size infrastructure, in a manual way, 50 hours, in an automated way, 5 hours. Now my final questions. How often would you do a vulnerability scan in your infrastructure? Any suggestions? How often do you do it? Once a week. That's good. Anybody else? Who's doing it once a year? Who's doing it never? Once a month? Once a week? Once a day? I was asking for never, you remember that, yeah? Okay. Good. Keep in mind that vulnerability management is about a dynamic environment. The two major aspects of dynamics are your infrastructure in itself. It won't look the same way as it looks today, tomorrow. Changes in IP address ranges, changes in software, changes in services, changes in hosts. Someone is doing a Microsoft Windows restore point. Someone is doing a reset of a machine, starting it from scratch. And all of a sudden you have vulnerabilities again, really old ones. And on the other hand, for example, in our case, we're adding about 50 to 60 tests every day to our solution. And from a high severity point of view, there are about 40, 45, sometimes 50 new vulnerabilities discovered every week. And that tells you something about the half-life of an annual security scan, of an annual penetration test. By the way, speaking about penetration tests and patch management, what's first, the vulnerability or the patch? Okay, the vulnerability, thank you. Yeah, rhetoric question. On the other hand, would an attacker wait for Microsoft Patch Tuesday? You got my point. A penetration test. A pen tester's job is to check the security of your infrastructure, to verify your security posture, and therefore you should make the life of a pen tester as complex, as complicated, as hard as possible, right? So a pen test is not there to find your vulnerabilities. A pen test is there to test the resilience of your infrastructure. And before doing a pen test, you should increase the resilience. Good. Thank you. Any questions still? You got a question.
So how often should you be doing a vulnerability test?
Well, it depends on your infrastructure. It shouldn't be just one single schedule. If you have critical systems, anything which is active for your business processes, web server, email, student management systems, anything like that, which holds personal identifiable information, for example, I would scan it daily. Regular systems, laptops, desktops, might be okay to do it once in a week. There is no rule of thumb in terms of how often you should do it. The rule of thumb is what's the risk assigned to that specific thing. And that's not just about a server, it's about the application, it's about the asset. And that's driving your scheduling. And the system you're using for vulnerability management should support that flexibility in scheduling. Yeah?
Thank you. You spoke of the proliferation of malware variants, and that got me thinking about the difficulty antivirus companies have to face in this unending race of infection and finding a remedy. And then I remembered of an article I read on Tech Republic about this new breed of malware, one which is very difficult, not to prevent, but to detect. And obviously, of course, you cannot prevent something that you cannot detect. So antivirus companies cannot create signatures to identify their behavior and mark them as malware. Even worse, this malware is said to use normal command like PowerShell commands, which can at any given time be suspended for a while, could be for days, and then continue after several days, so making it even difficult to see that something is happening on the system. This kind of malware, they're called fileless malware because they do not use any file. So you don't have a payload on a system to detect that this could be malware or anything. Instead, they're set to reside mainly on your RAM. They use like an exchange between the RAM and the registry. And then the particular action that the particular malware could be designed to do could take even months or more, depending on what the perpetrator are trying to gain from your system. So what I wanted to ask from you as a security company or security expert, are you aware of such malware? And if so, are you doing anything, some form of research and trying to see how you can best protect or advise your clients to stay ahead of this kind of malware? Because at this stage, it's kind of like really difficult because even antivirus companies cannot detect it in the way that the malware is designed. So basically, I just thought maybe we could have a conversation with regard to this kind of malware. It's fileless, no payload, so it's difficult to detect and see how it works. Thank you.
So thank you for the question, because it highlights another aspect of IT security. And that aspect is about us all as users. Unfortunately, we will never stop anyone for 100% to click on something. I mean, we can do phishing training, user awareness as much as we want. That's not going to work. That specific type of malware you've described, which is fileless, not using anything which is stored on the machine where you can detect it from a signature point of view or something like that. It's a sort of new aspect. We've seen it in the last about, if I'm not mistaken in my remembrance, about last 18 months. The only thing you can do is to train your users about what they see, about how much of they can do with specific phishing attacks and stuff like that. The second thing you can do is to structure your network in a way that you can detect and respond. Respond means contain. such an infection as quickly as possible. And to be honest, vulnerability management, when we're talking about phishing attacks, is not the perfect response. It helps you supporting it in terms of containing the spread of it, because sometimes those things are trying to then leverage on certain stages, go in the attack vector from one exploit, from one vulnerability to the another. But there is no kill point for that specific malware you have described from vulnerability management point of view.
Any other questions?
If there are no more questions, see you at our booth.
And on that note, I would like to encourage everybody to please go and visit the sponsor stands. They are fantastic IT companies that are here, and they support us, and it keeps this event free. So please, please support them. It's highly important. We've got Kipu, Intel, Samsung, Fortinet, Microsoft, and Mint. So please, sponsor stands. We are now going to be breaking for tea. I ask you to please be back promptly in the venue, well, not only this venue, wherever you want to, whatever you want to, stream you want to attend, at about 3 o'clock so that we can start promptly at 3:05. I remind you that the people in the green T-shirts are the people to ask for any help that you may need, and I remind the people in the green T-shirts, we've got a meeting straight after today. Tonight there's going to be a cash bar at our event, but we are definitely sponsoring at least one drink, so you just need to take your name badges